Hello and welcome to The Show Must Go On, a show where I get to speak with people in show business. Today's guest is Steve Foster. He is an actor of film and television. Let's take a listen. When did you first realize acting was something you were interested in?
It kind of came over time. I used to be way more of a background person. I did, the technical behind the scenes and stage crew stuff like that. And part of that process was just getting over the fear of being on stage or in front of people, and all the things that go through your head. You're thinking, what if I screw up? What if they laugh? What if, when they're not supposed to? So yeah, it was just a process over time. And actually, I was encouraged by others. It wasn't really something that I necessarily sought out to do with my life.
Okay, so when you said you were behind the scenes, when did that start?
Oh, as a kid, even in grade school, we had elementary school. Every year we'd do like a class play, or we'd even have variety show and different things like that, where people would do talent type stuff. And I was always involved somehow, but it was always kind of behind the scenes. And then probably around junior high school, I started to try to do some more where I was out front, but the whole standing up and speaking in front of people was a huge fear for me, something that I definitely had to overcome.
When did you get your first official acting job, and what was it?
Oh, wow, you mean paid?
Yeah.
Because not all of them are paid. Some of them you do just because you enjoy the working with the people and the project or whatever. My actually very first paid one would have been, it was a movie called The Breakup, shot here in Chicago. Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Aniston and a few other well-known people. John Favreau's in it. Jason Bateman's in it. And I was really just, because I have that Midwestern look, and they seem to like that. I mean, whenever they shoot in Chicago, and it has a lot of Chicago elements in that movie, they want people that look indigenous to the area. But probably my biggest breakthrough thing, and I talk about this in the bio that I sent you, and this came completely out of the blue. I mean, a lot of times you send your stuff out and you have no idea whether it even gets opened, because back in the day you used to have to actually send paper photos and a resume and stuff like that. And Kathleen Zellner, who is a big defense attorney here in the Chicago area, was taking on a case, and it ended up getting national attention. It was a little girl, and her dad was supposed to be looking after the daughter, and they all fell asleep. Somebody snuck into the house and took the girl, and unfortunately molested her and dropped her in the river. But the police focused on the father and coerced a confession and threw him in jail. And this defense attorney took on this case pro bono, and she wanted to recreate the the environment that was going on, that how they coerced a confession out of him, because eventually they used DNA to exonerate him. But I got to play one of the main roles. I was the lie detector operator, and it actually, I still see it occasionally. It was just rerun on the ID channel because they rerun ABC's 2020. And then E! News has done it a bunch of times. ABC News has run it a bunch of times, and they used this video of them trying to get a confession out of him as a main part of the court case, and he actually won. They won a huge judgment, and he was found to be not involved at all. And then they did end up finding the actual person, who was somebody that lived in the neighborhood and had a background of kidnapping and sexual deviancy. So yeah, there's some stuff that you have no idea that it's coming, and all of a sudden it finds you a lot of times.
So, do you look for work, or do you receive emails from an agency? And do you have to go through auditions to do this?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. I mean, probably most of my stuff comes through people that I have gotten to know through networking, and they either work with a casting company, or they know somebody who has a project that's going on, and they typically are looking for an age range, specific look, for lack of a better term. But sometimes I'll get, auditions. I'm not the greatest auditioner. I'll openly admit that. So most of my stuff is usually somebody remembers me, and they find, because I am registered with the local casting people, and I keep in touch with them, and they'll just reach out and say, hey, are you available for this on this date? This is what the deal is, and it goes from there. But there's also smaller projects. I just did a project for Tower Productions that's in Northfield, Illinois, for the Weather Channel, and it was a recreation of a family that was caught in a huge tornado a few years ago, and they used the recreation on the Weather Channel's Storm Stories, which they take region by region. They take certain stories of inspiration, people that survived extreme weather conditions or did heroic things under extreme weather conditions, and that just aired for the first time on November 1st. So I'm pretty proud of that one too, because the guy, the real person that I portrayed, it's interesting. The more I looked into the character, I mean, he and I are very similar, and it's weird when you get cast as basically the person that you are. So yeah, sometimes it's not that much of a stretch, it just casting people usually know exactly what they're looking for. So
is this, do you receive in some of your projects residuals?
I'm not in the union, and I'm not by choice. I know a lot of people that did jump at the chance to join the union a few years ago. They had kind of a, I don't know what you'd call it, a cattle call or whatever. I've chosen not to be, and part of that is because I don't have the freedom to do it full time, and I don't really want that to be my primary career.
Okay.
And the thing I really enjoy about it is I tell people it's kind of like going to a fantasy camp. If you were wanting to be a baseball player or a basketball player, they have these camps that you go and you hang out with some former NBA stars or Major League Baseball stars or whatever, and you get to play whatever sport with them. Well, this is kind of the same thing. I get to film a commercial or a TV show or a movie or whatever with biggest names around, and that's just because there's a lot going on in Chicago, and I put myself out there, and I do my information updated, which is important because they want it to be current. They don't want you to have like a 20-year-old photo on your profile, and they want that look, and then you show up and you're 20 years older.
Right.
So you do have to be open, honest, and genuine, and just trust your look. And but yeah, if you're in the union, there's a lot more involved. You really have to meet certain criteria, and I just don't feel that overwhelming desire to want to be that into it, because there's a lot of not real glamorous stuff about it.
If you could, as far as give advice to someone, what would you give them? This is something they might want to do.
Well, I usually give people the same advice. Find what you're passionate about. If you're passionate about it, you'll be willing to do what it takes. And that's with any job, because nobody's going to walk up to you and hand you a pile of money and say, come do this for me. You definitely have to pay your dues. You have to show up on time. You have to be professional. You have to do what you're told. You have to be respectful of people on set. I mean, I'm still amazed at what some people will try to do while they're on set, and they're very specific about no pictures, don't talk to the actors, don't engage the crew unless they engage you, stuff like that, because that's their job. And this isn't like I refer to it as a fantasy camp, but it's not really. So you have to understand that their jobs are really hard. I mean, they have really long days, a lot longer than the actors and in background. And so be passionate about it, but also know what you're getting into, what it entails, that it is going to be work, to get yourself out there, and really don't give up before the miracle. So many times I've thought to myself, I keep sending out things and I don't hear much. And then all of a sudden, I mean, you would have think this year would have been one of my downest years, and I've actually probably worked more projects this year than I have in the past. So you just never know. You never know what can happen and what they're looking for, and what the crew and people. But yeah, if you prove yourself and people know they can trust you and rely on you, and you're going to show up on time and do what you're told and follow instructions and follow direction, and they'll keep calling you.
That was actually another question I had. Were you not working during the pandemic? And apparently you just said you've been working more now than before.
Yeah, and there's a lot more criteria right now, but actually, from my perspective, I mean, I have to go through, they test us at the beginning of every week, and then we had to sit through like how to conduct yourself on set, what's expected as far as, wearing your mask, washing your hands, keeping distance, you know, those types of things. But I have a call time in the morning, and they're going to test me again. And it's what they call a rapid test right before I go on set. And if I test positive in any way, they'll send me home. And if I don't, if I'm in the clear, I'll be on set. But they also have asked us to make sure you're, keeping your circle small. Don't be out, with the crowd everywhere and whatever. They want people that are going to commit to, doing their best to stay healthy and not, be part of the spread. But they have a lot more stuff in place, and it's a lot more organized than it is when there isn't a pandemic. But like all the food is prepackaged, all of that stuff, which normally it would just be a buffet. But yeah, everything is, you go by, you get your food, and you go sit down and you go eat it. And they keep everybody 6 feet apart, which is nice because normally that's not the case. Normally, not everyone gets a trailer with comfortable seating and all of that, but they just have to, because otherwise they won't have enough people to put the show together. So there's a lot of benefits right now, but they are asking a lot more of people, but they're also paying us more. They're paying us to go in just to get tested, and they're paying us to sit through, the half-hour training, and they're paying a little more on the daily rate and stuff like that. So there are benefits to it.
Okay, so your last question, if you could speak to any actor, have a conversation and lunch with any actor, whether they be dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh, wow. That one's pretty easy for me. I've always been a huge Steve Martin fan, and I know he does a master class, and one of my friends that's also a Steve Martin fan said it was okay, but you get used to him being, that performer, and then when you see him, as kind of like a regular person, it's really interesting how different their regular persona can be as opposed to, their performer mode or characters that they've played. But I've always loved him. I think he's a very funny guy, great talent, and just he's stood the test of time. And even when he crossed over and started doing more dramatic roles and things like that, I've just always been very much a fan of his. But there's a lot of people that I love and respect their work. I mean, not everything, but there's certain directors, and I've gotten to work with a lot of them, which is fun, because you do get to see, wow, this is why they are highly touted, and this is why people like doing their movies and stuff like that. And so, yeah, when Spike Lee came to town, of course, everyone wanted to be in Chirac, and I was fortunate enough to be part of that. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and even right now they're doing the show called The Chi, and it's in its 3rd season. I think it's gonna get picked up for a 4th season, but it's pretty heavy duty. What it's really like growing up in some of the tough neighborhoods in Chicago and what they deal with on a daily basis. So it's pretty important stuff.
Well, that's all the time we have today for The Show Must Go On. I'd like to thank my guest, Steve Foster, and I want to thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Have a great day.